Welcome back to Learn English with Stories. What would you do if your boss told you this was your last chance? Today's story is about Daniel, an employee who was about to lose his job after a series of mistakes. He felt lost, stressed, and unsure of what to do next. But one decision changed everything. Let's begin. Daniel had been working in the sales department for nearly a year. At the beginning, everything seemed fine. He was energetic, confident, and eager to succeed. But over time, things started to change. He missed small details in reports. He forgot to follow up with clients. He sometimes submitted his work later than expected. At first, these mistakes seemed minor, but gradually they began to affect his performance. His manager started noticing. One afternoon, Daniel received a message. "Please come to my office," it said. As he walked in, he could feel the tension in the room. His manager looked at him seriously. "Daniel," she began, "we need to talk about your recent performance." Daniel nodded quietly. He already knew what this conversation was about. There have been several issues: missed follow-ups, late reports, and lack of attention to detail. Daniel felt uncomfortable, but he didn't interrupt. Then came the sentence he didn't expect. "This is your last chance to improve." For a moment, everything felt heavy. Daniel didn't know what to say. "I understand," he finally replied. As he left the office, his mind was full of thoughts. What am I doing wrong? Why is this happening? That evening, Daniel stayed alone at his desk. For the first time, he looked at his work honestly. He reviewed his past emails. He checked his reports. He looked at his task list. And slowly, he began to see the pattern. He wasn't managing his time well. He wasn't organized, and he often rushed his work without double-checking. The problem wasn't just bad luck, it was his habits. At that moment, Daniel made a decision. If this was his last chance, he would take it seriously. The next day, he started making changes. He created a clear task list every morning. He set reminders for follow-ups. He reviewed his work before submitting it. At first, it wasn't easy. He had to slow down. He had to stay focused. He had to be more disciplined. But day by day, things began to improve. He made fewer mistakes. He responded to clients on time. His reports became more accurate. A few weeks later, his manager noticed the difference. "Daniel," she said one day, "I can see improvement in your work." Daniel felt relieved, but he knew this was not the end. He continued working carefully. He stayed consistent, and gradually his confidence returned. 1 month later, her manager called him into her office again. This time, the atmosphere was different. "I'm glad to see your progress," she said. "Keep this up." Daniel smiled. He had been given one last chance, and this time, he didn't waste it. From that experience, Daniel learned something important. Sometimes failure is not the end. Sometimes it is a warning. And if you are willing to change, it can become a turning point. Now that you've heard the story, let's go through some useful business English words and phrases that appeared in this situation. First, let's look at the word performance, which refers to how well you do your job. In the story, Daniel's performance was declining, which led to serious consequences. Next, we have the phrase last chance, which means a final opportunity to improve before facing negative results. This phrase is often used in serious situations at work, especially when performance needs immediate improvement. Moving on, we come to the word follow-up, which refers to contacting someone again to check progress or continue communication. Missing follow-ups can affect relationships with clients and damage trust. Another important term is attention to detail, which means being careful and accurate in your work. Daniel realized that his lack of attention to detail was one of his biggest problems. We also have the word consistent, which means doing something regularly and reliably over time. Daniel improved not just by working harder, but by being consistent every day. Finally, let's look at the phrase turning point, which refers to a moment when a situation begins to change in a positive way. In this story, receiving a last chance became a turning point for Daniel's career. As you can see, these expressions are very useful in real workplace situations, especially when talking about performance and improvement. So, what can we learn from this story? Sometimes we don't realize our mistakes until it's almost too late. But if we take responsibility and make real changes, we can turn a difficult situation into a new opportunity. If you want to improve your business English through real-life situations, stories like this can help you understand both language and mindset. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow the channel for more stories. See you in the next video.